Yes.
Hello, Nadine.
Hi, Korenna.
So good to see you again.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so our assignment today is to talk a little bit about deep sea diver. Um, and as we were talking before I hit record, I'm like, wait, I didn't want to miss any of this juiciness. So I was like, oh wait, we can't just visit. I gotta hit record. Um, what I was about to say was that for me, like how the stages and tools and skills of deep sea diver show up in a more formal circle is very different than how they show up like in the wild. Um,
Mm,
the come from is the same, the intention behind them are the same, but there's a certain agreed upon context and like a flow of things that happen in a formal circle that we don't have, in real life. And so for me, the aspects of deep sea diver that I think are really powerful to bring, into our real world relationships and into our connections, whether they be new or long term or, you know, temporary or, long lasting, is that the feeling what hasn't been felt
mm,
and this idea of um, staying with a feeling and asking the deepening questions, the you know, like almost like deep sea diver as like an advanced form of explorer, of like really like when you ask the like what's important about that or what's at stake here, and like you get those answers, and then as the stages just kind of lead into it, and then like the warrior stage is like you'll see someone like sigh before they answer and you go, ooh, wait, tell me about that sigh.
mhm.
For me, that's how deep sea diver shows up in our life, because you ask the question, like, what's important about that? And they go, and then they start answering you. And like, you could just let them give you a surface answer, like, well, it's important because, like, if I say no, then this might happen. But if I say yes, and then like this might happen, and I'm not really sure. And now we're talking about like the logistics, or we're doing breadth versus like that, wait a minute, tell me about that big sigh. Like, I do want to hear the answer to this question, but tell me about the big sigh. And they're like, yeah. And like, so they're like, what was that sigh about? And they're like, I didn't realize how much tension I was holding around this until you asked me this question. And now we're like, oh, okay, tension. Tell me about the tension. Like, and now we're having like a different type of exploration that I would say, like, there's a distinction between like a depth conversation versus like an informational or like information exchange or a surface type, you know, pleasant conversation. And so for me, that's where deep sea diver shows up in our in the wild in our real lives of like it's where you put your attention of like, oh, am I just doing the informational and I'm and like and we're moving this way, or am I actually going like wanting to know like not just the what, but the how, and like how it's occurring for them and why it's occurring that way, not just that it's occurring for them, you know. That makes
Right.
sense. Is it
Yeah, yeah. So that, like, the emotional part, the emotional landscape, and feeling that deeper cut, right? Like, that all makes sense to me. And I'm very comfortable with asking to get to that place. It's, it's more of where I feel like I get a little resistance, both in myself and with others, is in more of the creative play of like, once you're there, oh, okay, now where does this come from? Oh, this is something that's ingrained from your mom. Well, if I was your mom right now, what would you want to say to me? And like, so when it gets into more of that, like,
experimental place?
experimental place, but I think it is so incredibly powerful. And I have had so many incredible insights. It's just come from like a place where I've really had to trust the
Yeah.
person that I'm with.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a casual conversation when you lean into some of those more advanced things of like, what would you say to them if they were here? And then they say it and they go, oh, okay, well, you want to role play that with me? Like I'll be them and you be you, you know, or you be them and I'll be you. Like
Hmm.
it does take a certain amount of trust. I don't know that you can't have that, you know, with a sibling or with a longtime friend or with a romantic partner. I think like these things could be excellent. It's so funny. This dog, like, she's like, I want to be cuddled. I got tired of having her in my lap. You can share my chair if you want.
She has some feelings that are
Yeah,
deeper to
she's
tell you
like,
about
I'd
right
like to be a
now.
part of this. All right, weirdo. You can be in the chair if you want, but I'm not holding you on my lap anymore. You were getting heavy. But yeah, so I totally get it how like there's a certain level of vulnerability
Hmm.
no matter what end you are of that kind of exchange. And that's where we talk about like consent being really important. Like, and context setting of like, you don't just like leap into, okay, well, like tell me, like pretend I'm your mom. And people are like, what's happening? And you're like, hey, do you want to try something with me? Like, I'm wondering, like, would it feel good to like rehearse this conversation or, something like that, But yeah, I totally get it. Like, that is the edgier space to be in, where in a circle, you already have permission and like there's an expectation that, you may get there.
Right.
Or, you've got it's different in a like just a lunch conversation,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
How is that feeling for you? Like the distinction feeling and like even now when you think about it, like, oh, how, where, if I would
Uh,
apply some of this deep sea diver tools and skills.
it's always like why I love this course so much is because it's really about the relational. And
Mhm.
it's when I'm in my own mind thinking about this and trying to navigate it and figure it out that I'm like, whoa, I don't know I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what to do. Like, this doesn't feel right. And then it's like, oh, this is just feeling the deeper feeling, which is simple, not easy, right? Not easy,
Yeah.
but simple,
Yeah.
right? And you can ask these simple, deepening questions that aren't easy to
Mhm.
get there. And then it's like, oh, yeah, well, duh, that makes sense. But then when I'm on my own, I'm like, it's got
Yeah,
to
you're
go
like,
in
this is
all
too
these
scary. This is too
directions.
risky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. So it
Interesting.
feels really settling to be like, yes, this is, it's called deep sea. Like there's this almost this category for it, which makes it feel like it holds a
Yeah.
lot, which it does. And yet it's also feeling what's deeper than what's being said?
It's funny, like even like when you named it again, I'm like, it's called deep sea diver. And I'm like, oh yeah. And the ocean is like really mysterious. Like it's more crazy and
Hmm.
mysterious than outer space. And so I can see how there's like a gravitas to it of like, no, this feels intense, it feels risky, like it feels like it should be treated with care and reverence. And maybe it doesn't have to be that scary, or maybe, the difference between like snorkeling, you know, and scuba diving of like, like sometimes you're just snorkeling, and like you're seeing what's beneath the surface, but you don't have to go, so far into the depths. But there's
Yeah.
still value of like popping your head beneath the surface every once in a while.
Yeah.
And I don't think people get invited to do that enough,
Yeah.
and so I just feel like there's a real service that we do to others. And they can like, but then again, I come from an environment where people have great boundaries and they like I just assume people would feel free to say no if they didn't want to go there with me. So
Hmm.
there might be a little confirmation bias there of like, hey, like, do you want to do this or do we want to try this? And like I just assume that the people I'm conversing with would be like, oh, no, that's weird. Or like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, to even bring it up for me, like, this situation that like has happened so many times in my life outside of like the circling sphere where it's like one small thing blows up into this bigger, kind of like unraveling of emotions of
Mhm.
someone. So, like I say one thing and then it's like someone kind of blows up at you and you're just like, whoa,
Didn't know all that
that
was in there.
response was a little bigger than what that, phrase had said, so it's like in those moments, like that's where I think in real life it comes in of like there is something deeper here,
Yeah.
and that, like, I think it takes a lot of care and attention. What's helping me from the course is how to use that use the skills to navigate the space when someone else doesn't know that that's actually what's going on, and you
Yeah.
can start to recognize it
And to
and
have
invite
the
them in a little bit more.
confidence and the courage to do it. Like to
Yeah.
have like the like and the comfort to go, ooh, like, that was not the reaction I was expecting. Can we slow down a second? This feels important.
Hmm.
What just happened now? Like, so I said this, and it occurred for you in such a way that you responded like this. That feels important. And it feels like I really want to understand like what happened. And
Right.
like rather than just like, oh, okay, I'm sorry, or being like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Right.
Like that's
Which is
that's
what I want to do.
that's
So,
disproportionate. Why are you freaking out? But like to that, I love this, Nadine. Like the idea of like, I always tease like the course is like professional development, like wrapped in personal growth and then tucked into a mastermind group. And so like this is where the mastermind group piece comes in of like, because in the course, we're doing it live in the course so you get to practice, but then you're doing it with your cohort mates in your weekly practice pods. So you do get to gain the experience and the skills and the comfort level so that when something weird does happen, in an everyday conversation or with a partner or with a roommate, you're like, oh, like this isn't the first time it's happening. Like you're like, oh, I've already practiced this in a very safe container, in a mutually consensual environment. So like your nervous system doesn't go wah, 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 with all the bells and alarms going off. You go, oh, I know this place and I know what to do, rather than I don't know, like I love our self-study programs. I think they serve a really great purpose, but they are missing the mastermind component. They are missing the live practice component. So you can get it intellectually, but
right.
that doesn't help you feel like confident and comfortable doing it in your real life. And so that's what I think I was hearing from you of like, oh, like I get to practice it with my cohort mates. And then I do feel like a little more comfortable bringing it out, or at least you will now. Like
Yeah.
before you were a
Yeah.
little skeptical.
Yeah. I'm at least better at recognizing, like, when something could be helpful. It
Mhm.
might not be the right time to use that, right? Depending on where that other person is. But
Right.
I'm able to start, like, I think everything starts with attention. And if we can't see something, then we can't make a choice around how to navigate it. So,
Wow. So it sounds like you're saying like it's helping you like notice landmarks or notice like, oh, this incident is where this tool might be useful. And then you also, it sounds like you have the comfort level and the confidence to gauge like, is this the right time? Is it the right place? Is it even the right person? Like, is this person have the capacity to meet me here? And like I also hope that the practice that you're getting in the course will give you the confidence that like, and if I try and it's not, I know how to like get back into rapport. I know how to clean that up. I know how to back out gracefully and be like, oops, okay, I tried to go deeper. I got met with anger. And like I know how to clean that up and ease my way back out, you know.
yeah, I think you said that beautifully because yes, 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 yes.
Oh, is there a story in there? The way you laughed,
All
you said
stories.
yes, that was like, oh, it feels like there might be something more here.
Yeah. Well, there was this, I think the piece of that's really like alive is what you were saying, is that it's hard, like it's hard. And I'm just like, oh God, I have to do this. But in our relationships that are outside of this practice, right? We're all trying these skills. So in the my real life, right? I'm starting to recognize because I'm practicing where this can show up.
Mhm.
and I'm wanting it to be effective when the situation calls for it, except I haven't necessarily invited the other person into what this is. And so I'm I'm finding it really vulnerable to, in a place when everything is okay, to go to a partner or to a friend and be like, "Hey, do you want to try this
Yeah.
relational skill with me?" So
Yeah.
that when something does come up and I want to go deeper and explore that, I'm not blindsiding them with something that they can't understand. They don't understand what's happening, right? Because that's not consent in that moment, right? So, but I'm finding it very vulnerable to want to ask people in my real life, would you want to engage with me in this way? Just because I want to deepen our relationship.
Yeah.
Because it feels very,
I resonated with the vulnerability, but I also felt a tinge of sadness when you said it.
yeah.
Of like, oh, like I really want you to have people in your life that you do feel comfortable. Like, hey, I'm taking this course to up level my own relational skills and I'm learning some stuff that I would love to share with you or practice with you. Like I almost feel like I felt sad for you when you said it, and even when I repeated it back, I'm like, now I'm mad. Like, who is in your life that wouldn't respond to that with like enthusiasm? Now I don't. Now I'm mad at these invisible people that you are talking about because I was like, wait a minute. If Nadine would go to someone and be like, I'm learning this, I'm finding it really valuable, would you be willing to like let me show you some of it or like let me practice it with you? Like, ew, who are these people that don't go, oh, really? You're learning this thing that you find valuable? Yeah, like show me. Like, sure, I'll practice with you. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yes, and right. It's also complicated. It's like, yes, that sounds so simple. It's also
yes, in theory, it sounds so simple. Like, yeah, just approach
right?
it. But yeah, also then you're the town weirdo.
That's the thing that I'm worried, like, is that I have said, would you be willing? And I've had people go, yes. And then I'm like, oh shit. Like,
Now what do I
now
do?
I have to like actually do that. And what if something that's really important to me, right, isn't as important to them? Or they do go like, no, that's not what I want. So it's more
Oh,
the like, the
yeah.
more I let people in, the more open to being rejected.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny when what also occurred to me was you were saying that is like, oh, yeah, we didn't, make it explicit and clear that like when you ask someone, will you practice with me? The first couple times you practice, you're on the listening end. They're like, I just want you to share and I'm going to practice using these skills. And it's funny, like I might say this to everybody when we're in the next, weekend training of like, take some of the next step like homework handouts that you get, from Sovereign and from Explorer and be like, I'm gonna do some of this with you. Like, like show them what you're doing and be like, I just want here's all like you want to practice me. All you have to do is just tell me about something that's important to you, and I'm gonna practice reflecting back, paraphrasing, asking deepening questions, like
Mm,
validating and like even
yeah.
show them the sheet. Like I'm gonna practice doing these things with you. And like, thank you for letting me practice them with you. And then the hope is they're like, oh, this was the best conversation I've had in a really long time. And you go, yeah, I think some of these skills and tools help, make these conversations richer and more connected and more intimate. And then they're like, can I keep the sheet? I'm like, yes, please. Can I try this on you? And you're like, yes, please. But like it is one of those things where it's like you have to be willing to give first. You're like, let me give you a taste of how good it feels to have someone relate to you in this way.
Mm,
And then maybe I can like invite you to do it for me.
yeah.
Like that feels even more vulnerable of like, oh, like first I'm gonna show you, and then I've got to go, okay, do you want to try rising up and meeting me that way? Like that, like so funny, like I can feel the vulnerability and the heat. I can feel my face getting hot when I even think about being like I could teach it to someone and then going like, and would you like to try those? Like now I'm gonna share and I want you to try to do this for me. Like, yeah, I can feel the
Yeah. And I think that's the distinction, right? Is that even in my background, like I'm very comfortable with teaching, but I'm not like my job isn't to teach this to people, right? It's to create better relationships, which means we have to actually do the relational part.
Yeah.
So that's the part where I am like, well, like teaching still lets you stay at a distance,
Yes.
right? And I know that that's not my role in this. And
Yeah.
so it's much more vulnerable.
Yeah. Because you're not just lecturing them on it. You're like listening to them and you're like, okay, let me try to paraphrase that. And then
Yeah.
you do it. And then
Yeah.
they're going to respond. And
Yeah.
then they share some more. And you're like, okay, let me
Yeah.
try validating that. Like, here's how this makes sense to me. What's
Yeah.
it like to hear that? And like, so it's like you're not teaching it, you're
Hmm.
immersed in it. You're
Hmm.
you're kind of modeling it, which I guess is a form of teaching, but more so than that, you're living and breathing it,
Yeah.
and that is really vulnerable.
Yeah. And I'm curious about your perspective on like one of the themes that's really come up, especially in this deep sea diver portion too, is like truly trusting in people's ability to be themselves. And like I don't there's something around trust, and I'm not really sure what it is, but it's around this even notion of bringing someone who might not be aware of these practices
Yeah.
to the practice, and me going like, but I don't actually like I don't actually know if they can even have this
Right.
conversation.
Do they have enough context to even consent? Like, do they even like I said earlier, like, you know, I live in a bubble where I'm like, oh, sure, they can just go yes or no, but do they really even have enough like lived experience and context to know what they're consenting to?
Yeah.
Yeah, that trust makes sense to me. Or, do they have the capacity to handle it? Like I run into that with my family of origin of like, oh yeah, like I want this from my dad, or I want to have this conversation with one of my siblings. And then I'm like, oh, yep, nope. They don't have the capacity or the desire to. They say they do. They're like, yeah, be honest with me. Like, I want to know. And I'm like, okay, well, here's how it impacted me when, I wrote you this email, this a heartfelt email, and it's been 3 weeks and you have not responded. And then there's just defensiveness and projection that I get back. And I'm like, oops, yep, that's not what I was hoping for, and then you just kind of like that. I don't know. It's a tough one, especially like that's why we warn people in the beginning. We're like, you may outgrow some of the, current relationships you have. You may find yourself shifting them, you know,
Hmm.
your relationships may shift over, as you develop. But I mean, that's just kind of true for any kind of, personal growth of like as we, transcend and develop and grow, like people either grow with us or like we grow apart. And I don't know. It's funny. I'm like, it's like, as you're bringing it up, Nadine, I'm noticing how bittersweet it is to go like, oh, I feel better. I feel closer to these specific people, and I feel more distant from those people. And like, yeah, there is a little bit of a bittersweetness of like you're almost like refining or alchemizing relationships. And like, yeah, I'm noticing like some grief or some sadness of like, yeah, and some of the people don't like make the journey with you.
Yeah. That's what's that's what's been kind of like brewing underneath of this conversation as I'm relating to what we're sharing, because I very much relate to the family of origin, and even just like putting myself out there and them just being like, oh, I'm like, so we don't have a response to my
Just
emotions. I'm like, oh, cool, but like it's I think sometimes where the vulnerability and trust piece comes in for me is that there are aspects of that person, right? Because we have like a whole community inside of ourselves, and there's aspects of this person's community that I do enjoy, right?
right.
And there's other ones that I'm trying to bring into the fold, and it's like if I do invite them in and it's not something that they want to do, which is I have to respect their life journey, right? But then it makes me confront that deeper feeling of I might have to let this shift and grow, which might affect the things that I like about them,
Yeah.
right? Like I have
Oh,
to,
interesting. Yeah. It's funny. That's why I love the kind of like the solar system concept of relationships of like, yeah, it's not like either you're in my life or you're not. It's like, okay, like I've got these people, like, I'm the center of my universe, as we all should be. And like, there are certain expectations and behaviors I need to see from someone who's in these inner, one, two, three rings. And like there's certain things that I do for these people in these inner one, two, three rings. And then there's these ring four people and these ring five people and these ring seven people. So there might be like these casual acquaintances that you go to a ball game with, or you call up when you want to go camping, or you call up when you want to go to a concert, but they're a ring five person. And like, so that you can find the healthy balance and the rhythm, because like the worst thing for relationships is like this lack of reciprocity that breeds resentment of like
right,
when your expectations of the relationship are not met by reality. That's the kiss of death for any relationship, whether it's a familial relationship or a romantic relationship or a friendship. It was like when my expectations do not match up with reality, like relationships cannot survive that. And so sometimes it's about adjusting our expectations to meet the reality and then go, oh, okay. And then how do I adjust my choices and behavior to meet reality of like, oh, this person cancels on me at the last minute, but I, will change my schedule when they,
mm,
call to see if I can have lunch. Well, of course I'm going to be resentful if they cancel day of because I actually move stuff around to accommodate them. But if I know they do that and then I go, oh yeah, I only accept their invitations when it is convenient for me and I wouldn't mind if they canceled. Like that's a whole different relationship to reality.
right.
It's like I adjusted my expectations and my behavior to meet what was available because the invitation to join me in my expectations and reality wasn't met. Like, so I like options, because it's so sad when people are like, yep, we're no longer friends, or they did this thing, or we're no longer friends. So like, what else was available there? And like, this is where deep sea diver comes in handy
Hey,
again. That what
there
you're
we
to? It was like, yeah, and if you had a third friend that you could sit down with and be like, what's happening that you want to write this person off? And like, and what occurred? And like, ooh, and like, what were you needing that you didn't get? And like, what would it take to be satisfied with what the relationship they did have to offer? Like, these are the deepening questions and the being with that I think could, I don't know. I just want everybody on the planet to have people to do these explorations with. I think we would all be happier and healthier.
I agree. And there's just this like, there's this like magical kind of moment that's coming up for me. I just recently went to a traditional Japanese tea ceremony. So it's a silent practice, but it's very ritualistic. It's with people. Like it's absolutely beautiful. It's like a space where you're you're really sovereign in it, as well as relational, and that you're having to pay attention, but you're in your own world and you're moving in between, like taking the tea and spending time with it. And I really love like sitting in ceremony and specifically listening to the plants. And so I
Mm.
was having this conversation, and what was coming up was that I feel like I'm at this crossroads in my life, and there's an option to go left, which I already did, and I don't want to do that anymore. And then there's an option to go right, and I don't really like that other option either, right? And it's like, no, like neither one of those are for me. And mine is actually a third way. And it's a
Mhm.
more creative, but it's a deeper way. And it's like, I'm actually going to go straight and I'm going to go off the road. into this patch that's like really thick. And I think what the where there's this piece coming up is I have this visual of me being like in the middle of this like thick brush in the forest, right? And I'm kind of got some like jaggers on me and it kind of hurts and there's twigs and grasses and everything everywhere. And um the tea ceremonist was like, "Oh yeah, I see you like out there with like a machete like carving your way." And I was like, "No, it's not a machete actually. It is I'm taking one piece of this, piece of wood off the path and going like, wow, you are beautiful. And I need you to go over here. And then I'm going to the next one and I'm like, how can I like delicately like pay attention to these things along the way that are and aren't working for me
Yeah.
and move them. And that's what feels almost like what deep sea diver is it's like you're going into these places
Yeah.
and really ominous and
Mhm.
weird. And instead of going like, let's hack through this, it's like, "Hey, there's this one piece that's right in
Yeah.
front of you. Can we look at it and
Yeah.
then place it somewhere where it's more appropriate or where
Yeah.
it makes
Yeah. Where it's more suited. It's funny, like what's striking me about how you're explaining this or like how you're describing it is there's a slowness to it,
mm-hmm,
an intentionality to it, and like a gentle reverence to it of like, at first when you were like, oh, these paths were presented to me, and I was like, ah, none of one of this fit. I think I'm going to forge my own path. And it's such a like American thing to be like, and you're gonna take a machete and you're gonna carve your own path, and you're like, mm-mm. I'm gonna be one with the path and go, okay, like I need to pass here, so I'm gonna move you out of my way. Like, where does it feel like might be the next best place for you to go? Okay, over here. And then you take some more steps and you hit another obstacle and you're like, okay, I'm going to move this out of my way. Where is the next place, best place for this to be? Okay, it's over here. But there's a reverence to it and a like a communal or solidarity to it of like, yeah, and like it's so funny, like with nature, with people, even with issues or concerns, like that's like I have goosebumps like resonating with that of like, oh yeah, like can we stop seeing ourselves as in opposition to these things and rather being like, oh, okay, so like where's the win-win? Like this isn't working for me.
mm-hmm,
This is where like where is the win-win? Like where's the next best place where this is a mutual fit as opposed to me forcing my will or me surrendering to your will.
right.
And like to
Yeah.
deep sea dive that, to stay open, curious, creative, and like that curiosity being about like, okay, what's the impact and what are you noticing? What are you wanting?
Yeah.
And to make those things important and not just the what's next or what's the goal, but like the experience, the
Mm-hmm,
present moment experience becomes valued as well.
right.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
love it, Nadine. Well, I can't wait to hear if having this conversation shifts anything for you and has you. It's so funny. I don't even want to say like bringing or doing deep sea diver in your life more because I imagine you've been doing it, but you haven't been noticing it, or like because of the way you've been framing it, you weren't seeing where you were doing it. And so I am really looking forward to checking in with you a couple weeks and go, oh yeah, now I'm seeing it everywhere, but I just wasn't like hearing it or labeling it in the same way. Does that resonate?
100%. Yeah. Where it feels like I was, yeah, potentially looking at it as this very distinct thing when
Yeah, you
really
had kind of an
broader than that. Yeah.
yeah, like this very narrow perspective on what it was. And then you're like, oh yeah, like I'm not sure I'm ready to do that. And I'm especially not ready to do that outside of a very, tight container. And then you're like, oh wait, yeah, like if I'm looking at the essence or the come from,
Hmm.
like, oh, I want to, now I'm excited about using that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yay.
Practice
Any,
coming an hour.
I love it. Anything else you want to say to me today or to our community? today on like to in order to feel kind of like
Yeah,
complete? Or-
I feel like something that's really coming up strongly for me is like really honoring where I'm at and like allowing myself to be engaged and curious and filled with life when that is happening, and then also allowing myself to step back and allow things to kind of like simmer and have some space. Like allowing myself to lean in and lean out has been like a really big learning recently of
Mm,
need a break. I can take a break and it's still going to be here for me when
yeah.
I'm ready to move back in.
Yeah. Oh, that makes so much sense to me, especially given your history, as an elite athlete and as, a coach and everything that you've done of like that impetus to like push, push, push and like always be, succeeding and always be improving versus like, oh, sometimes I inhale and sometimes I exhale. And like then the other side of a push is rest. And I cannot go at an Olympic pace all of the time. I'm gonna burn out. And I know you as a person who has a tremendous capacity and, and just like a tenacious will of like, even when you are burnout, you're like, where's that fourth gear? And I love hearing that you're giving yourself permission and space to rest and to lean out when it feels right. Like, I think that's a harder lesson for
Yeah,
you
for sure. But it's also
than.
really it's uncomfortable, but
Mhm.
it's really rewarding too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Hmm.
All right, my darling. Well, thank you for having a chat with me. I'm always like pleasantly surprised by what I learn and what we are able to discover together when we take some time to just kind of like sift through these things.
Yeah.
All right, darling. Until next time.
The next time.